LIVENODING. In this episode, I'm going to do an improvisation using Blender default cube and Shapekeys. So it's gonna be really simple, but I'm just gonna talk. First of all, when you first open Blender, you have this light, lamp, and you have the camera and the lamp, and then this default cube. And if you ever want to make like a Shapekeys using default cube, I should tell you that you shouldn't do that because the default cube has a different vertex order to this cube. I already told this to Blender developer many times, and I don't know, it's still not. They haven't fixed this. Basically, this guy and this guy, even though they are the same cube, if you are doing the like a shape key blend shape between the two, it is actually like a different shape. So let's say if I'm like selecting this new cube and this default cube and then join it as shape. So now if I'm selecting the default cube and I have this shape doing the blend shape or the shape like a shape key animation, I'm gonna get this problem. So this is not good. I already mentioned it to a Blender developer. If you are actually using something like Sverchok, like if you create a box and bmesh viewer. Now with Sverchok, the vertex order is actually more correct between this guy and this guy. So the new cube, if I create a new cube, and even though this Sverchok one is a bit smaller, if I do like a shape keys, actually join as shapes, and I do this blend shapes. Oh, it's actually doing the opposite. So yeah, it's kind of a little bit of quirkiness going on. So that's because this is the default cube and this is the cube being generated by running this command. Apparently the default cube has a similar result to Sverchok one. So Sverchok one actually conformed to the default cube. So it's a small thing, but I noticed this is kind of funny. You see, that's the default cube, kind of blend shaping into Sverchok cube. Okay, so I'm gonna prove it. So if I'm gonna randomize the vertices here and then make the cube like size of 2. This is the default cube. This is the new one. Join it as shapes again, so we have a new shapes. So that's correct. That's because of the vertex order once again. But if you are using a new cube from here and do the blend shape here, so this is gonna be like wrong. So I think the one that needs to be fixed is this cube, because the default cube is default cube. Everyone loves the default cube, but this guy is wrong. Like whenever you create new cube, so that's a kind of wrong vertex order. If you want to see what I'm really talking about, if I select all this cube and then using objects in, get selection, and use a viewer index, we can check the index of these cubes, and this is the default cube. This is the one being generated inside Sverchok. Index correct. This one is wrong. This one is wrong. So these two are wrong. But anyhow, that's one thing I need to just mention it. Let's do something now with the default cube. I'm gonna delete this. So this default cube, I'm gonna create another cube and just do like a quick reshape of this, something like that. See, if I select this and select this, they have a matching topology, so we can just join as shapes, and so we can have this proper blend shapes. So now we have this small blend shapes objects. I'm gonna use animation nodes real quick just to instance it. So this is the master. I'm gonna select it, and we're gonna use the instancer. Gonna say save this, Shapekeys, play, and turn off auto always. Okay, now I'm gonna grab these master objects and I'm gonna use matrix distribute, and this is gonna be containing a bunch of vectors we can use for to instance our object. So object matrix output here. So this all the list of matrix goes in here and also goes in there. This is the objects being generated on the fly. Plug it in there. So now we have these objects line up. So that's cool. What can we do next? We can now use the shape key input, output, and so yeah, this thing actually I really like it. This is quite new in Animation Nodes 2.0. You can get the shape keys from objects. So we have a bunch of objects here, right? We just can plug in this object. So I suppose it should work. Actually, I might need to go inside the loop. So we have a list of objects, 5 instance. I'm gonna hit W, go into the loop. Now inside the loop we can tell it, okay, for each object, shape keys, just list all the shape keys. For example, we can use viewer nodes and have a look. So this one contains a single shape keys. Of course, we only have a single shape keys. That's okay. And with the shape keys, we can control it. So this is our objects, and oh, actually this one is expecting a shape keys, so shape keys going there, and this one is expecting a value. So now we can control the value that way. We can use random number. Use this index inside the loop for the seed, and this can go in there. We can probably go higher as well if we actually set it up that way. For every shape keys, if I'm not wrong, you can actually increase the minimum and the maximum, something like that. So you can go higher now. I need to refresh the instance. Tap W, reset the source data. Now we can go higher with this. And cool, now everything is working. We can increase our instance, and if we randomize, we're gonna get that result. Very cool, very easy to create as well. Let's make it like a grid, make it like 10 by 10. Increase it like that. So we have this kind of some kind of structure design. We can randomize it. So with this technique, there's one thing I should say, that you can actually bake this, if I'm not wrong. So if we use, let's say for the seed here, we use math and just use a frame number, plug into this guy. So now it's there's some kind of this procedural random animations going on. You can bake this basically. So if I'm not wrong, let's set the time frame to 50. With these animation nodes, everything that's actually output from animation nodes, like shape keys output or transform output or matrix output, will be baked. So we can just go to overview, excuse me, and then bake to keyframe. So if I'm not wrong, they should be baked. Oh, let me not to touch anything while baking. So we just let it bake for 50 frames, and then when it's done, we check for every instance. Now every instance have their own animations, and you can export this out for game engine or things like that. So now you can see, if I select all these objects, we can see that animation graph editor, we have plenty of animations, kind of like an offset for each of these random. So yeah, that's actually pretty much it for this live noding. It's pretty simple. So basically with a cube, you can create a shape keys for blend shape. And then using animation nodes, if you want to have control over multiple cube with shape keys, you can easily do that using this kind of setup. So we're gonna need to use loop because we are working on multiple objects, shape keys, because each object can have actually multiple shape keys. Keep that in mind as well, because that's what I'm gonna cover on the next live noding, and we're gonna see how this technique can be used to randomize face or something else, anything that's kind of using blend shape or shape keys. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this live noding. Hopefully you enjoy this. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Bye.